Hey everyone, we're back again in continuing education and we're in the book of Luke. I am Minister James Moss. We are in chapter 19. We're going to cover verses 28 through 44. And this one is entitled, Jesus Rides into Jerusalem on a Donkey. All right, so what I'm going to do is make sure that I don't go past our verses here. So I always make a little notation to where I should stop. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Until this point, Luke presented a sampling of Jesus' ministry, his teaching, and his miracles. But with this description of Jesus' final entry into Jerusalem, Luke, just like the other gospel writers, slowed down his narrative, taking time to present the powerful details of Jesus' final week leading up to the cross. All right, so let's hit the scriptures. And when he had thus spoken, he went before, ascending up to Jerusalem. And it came to pass, when he was come nigh to Bethphage and Bethany, at the mount called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples, saying, Go ye into the village over against you, in which at your entering ye shall find a colt tied, whereon yet never man sat. Loose him and bring him hither. And if any man ask you, Why do ye loose him? Thus shall ye say unto him, Because the Lord hath need of him. And they that were sent went their way, and found even as he had said unto them. And as they were loosing the colt, the owners thereof said unto them, Why loose ye the colt? And they said, The Lord hath need of him. And they brought him to Jesus, and they cast their garments upon the colt, and they set Jesus thereon. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. And when he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they had seen, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, If thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. Okay. You see, it gets a little tricky there, but I'm kind of surprised that I made it through it all. Thank God for his help, because me and King James Version, I love it, but when I'm reading it silently, but when I'm reading it out loud, man, I know you'd be like, you sure he finished school? All right. So here we go, verses 28 through 31. Jesus and the disciples approached Bethphage and Bethany, two towns about 1 mile apart, situated on the Mount of Olives to the east of Jerusalem. Bethany was the home of his friends Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, whom Jesus had visited before. When Jesus spoke these words, they were probably in Bethphage, sending two disciples to bring a colt. By this time, Jesus was extremely well known. Everyone coming to Jerusalem for Passover had heard of him, and for a time, the popular mood was favorable toward him. The Lord needs it was all the disciples had to say, and the colt's owners gladly turned their animal over to him. The specification that this be a colt that has never been ridden is significant in light of the ancient rule that only animals that had not been used for ordinary purposes were appropriate for sacred purposes. All right, so here we go, verses 32 through 35. The two disciples did as they were told and found the colt exactly as they were told. Donkeys and colts were valuable. What the disciples did amounted to coming along and taking someone's car. But they said what Jesus told them to say. Mark wrote that Jesus also said the colt would be returned. The owners let the colt go, and the disciples brought it to Jesus. In Matthew, a donkey and a colt are mentioned. This was the same event, but Matthew focused on the prophecy in Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9, which indicates a donkey and a colt, thus affirming Jesus' royalty. The disciples then threw their garments over the colt, making a seat for Jesus. With this act of entering Jerusalem on a donkey's on a donkey's colt, Jesus was fulfilling prophecy and affirming his messianic royalty. He came in royal fashion, not as a warring king on a horse or in a chariot, but as a gentle and peaceable king on a donkey's colt. Verses 36 and 37, the custom of spreading coats on the ground ahead of a royal personage can also be seen in 2 Kings chapter 9, verses 12 and 13. This was Sunday of the week that Jesus would be crucified, and the great Passover festival was about to begin. Jews would come to Jerusalem from all over the Roman world during this week-long celebration to remember the great exodus from Egypt. Many in the crowd had heard of or had seen Jesus, and were hoping he would come to the temple. People lined the roads, and Jesus already had a crowd of followers who, when they saw that what he was doing, began to shout and sing as they walked along. According to the other Gospels, many others joined the celebration of praise. The Gospel of John also describes the people cutting down branches from the trees, probably from olive or fig trees, to wave in welcome. Verse 38, the expression, "Bless the King who comes in the name of the Lord," may have been recited as a part of the Passover tradition, as a blessing given by the people in Jerusalem to the visiting pilgrims. The people lined the road, praising God, waving branches, and throwing their cloaks in front of the colt as it passed before them. "Long live the King" was the meaning behind their joyful shouts, because they knew that Jesus was intentionally fulfilling prophecy. Verses 39 and 40. The Pharisees thought that the crowd's words were sacrilegious and blasphemous. They asked Jesus to keep his people quiet, but Jesus said that if the people were quiet, the stones would burst into cheers. Verses 41 and 42. Only Luke recorded this lament by Jesus in contrast to the great joy of the crowd. The man on the donkey began to cry at the sight of the city. The name of the city has peace. The name of the city has peace as a part of its meaning, but the people of the city did not know what would bring them peace. The city of peace was blind to the Prince of Peace. If the people had known what was truly happening and had recognized it for what it was, they could have found peace. But the Jewish leaders had rejected their Messiah. They had refused God's offer of salvation in Jesus Christ when they were visited by God himself. Now the truth would be hidden, and soon their nation would suffer. Verses 43 and 44. About 40 years after Jesus said these words, they came true. In AD 66, the Jews revolted against Roman control. 3 years later, Titus, son of the Emperor Vespasian, was sent to crush the rebellion. 600,000 Jews. Wow. See, that's 600,000. It's like over half a million. More than 500,000. 600,000 Jews were killed during Titus's onslaught. This would occur as judgment because though some of the people believe, most have rejected the opportunity God offered them. But God did not turn away from the Jewish people who obeyed him. He continues to offer salvation to both Jews and Gentiles. All right. And so that wraps this one up about Jesus arriving in Jerusalem on the donkey. And basically, if you read in the other Gospels, you get even a bigger picture of how big this was, this entrance into Jerusalem. So you know what we're about to get into. We're about to go into Passion Week. And so Passion Week and it's not about, it's a love story. Yeah, it's a love story, but not the kind of love story that you're used to. All right. So listen, as I always say, make sure that you get an understanding before you move forward, okay? And once you move forward, hey, you just move forward with the confidence that God, you're going to continue to open my understanding as I read your word. I trust that you will. All right, until next time, God bless you. God keep you. And remember, as I say, always keep studying.